everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me, as always, your host, Mr. Brennan Stefanik, and I'm bringing you those general programming reminders. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main episodes, and every Friday we are here with our mini-series In the Spotlight. But that's enough about that. Folks, Happy New Year. Happy first main episode of the new year. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you all so much for taking time out of your days and your weeks to listen to me and all these goofballs that I got on here with me. This past year has been a crazy journey. This has been a dream of mine for so long, and bringing it to fruition was a feat in itself, but I am just so grateful for all that it has brought. I am so thankful for all of you that have reached out and expressed joy in this and appreciation in what we do and what we're trying to do. It really means the world. It has brought me so much pride and happiness in this past year, and I cannot thank you enough. I also, of course, want to thank all of my guests that took so much time out of their day to come and chat with me and bare their souls and share their wisdom on this free outlet. They are the real MVPs, and I also couldn't be here without them, quite frankly. I couldn't. I don't have all of that knowledge to myself, because this is also a way that I am still learning actively, you know? We are all in this together. We are all doing the thing. And community is so important, and I am just really blessed with the one that I have. So thank you, everyone. I will do a full big ol' shout out for everyone at the end of this episode, but it is a long list of people, folks. Today, I am joined by the one and only me, myself, and I. Folks, it is a solo episode. This is the first solo episode, and it will hopefully be an annual thing, because I just wanted to take a look back at the year we just had and do a little review of everything that we've discussed and learned, especially with audition season coming up. I think it's good to get a couple of reminders in there before we go out there and hit the pavement running. Also, just for terminology's sake, when people say audition season, it typically refers to the first couple months of the year and the end of the previous year. Honestly, it can start in December and kind of go through mid-March-ish, all the way through the end of March. It's really arbitrary, but in those months is typically when a lot of regional theaters and summer stock theaters are conducting their auditions for their full season. So they are putting out their full slate of everything that they are going to do. They are coming to big cities like New York and Los Angeles and Chicago. They are holding equity principal auditions and equity chorus calls to pull talent from all of these major markets. So it is audition city over here. There are so many happening all at once, and all the actors are coming out to try and be seen and get these opportunities to line up their work for the year. So that is what we say when we say audition season, and that is about to start today, I guess. When you are listening is probably the first day where it's really going to kick into full gear. First full week of the new year. So that is pretty darn cool. So let's take it back to the beginning. Folks, from the very top, our mission and our journey has been trying to find out if we need to go to college to have a career in theater. And the answer I think we have landed upon is no. You do not need a formal college education to be an actor and make money from that. There are so many different paths that you can take. And if college is the thing for you, great. Some people need it. I needed it for so many different reasons. And you may not be one of those people, and that's okay. There are so many other paths you can take. We are endlessly taking classes as actors. We will always be taking classes. We will always be honing and practicing our skills. So if you want to hit the ground running, you want to just move to a big city and start taking classes and start going to auditions, great. You know, what a great way to figure out what you need, okay? And if you discover through that you need to go to college, then now you know, and you can get that process going as well. But overall, no, you do not need to go to school for theater. There are so many people out there on Broadway, on TV, working regionally, and they are all out there making their living by doing what they love. And that is the end goal at the end of the day, you know? So in order to get our career going, we need to start auditioning. And how do we even find those auditions? Well, we determined that, yes, there are a lot of places you can find them, but the most important are going to be Actors Access, Playbill.com, and casting networks if you are going for TV and or film. Actors Access, as we talked about, is the paid subscription service that most theater professionals are using, most casting directors are using to find talent, et cetera, et cetera. It is a hefty amount, but this is an investment that you do have to make in order to start to get yourself seen and get yourself out there. So Actors Access is a definite must for all theater actors. Playbill is a great free resource. That is where you're going to find listings for a lot of your EPAs, ECCs, and open calls. As we discussed, an EPA is an equity principal audition. That is when they are looking for union actors to cast the main roles in their shows. ECCs are equity chorus calls. Those are going to be casting for union talent who would like to be considered for singer or dancer tracks. And then the good old open call is, as it sounds, open to everyone. Anyone can go and be seen. It is like the Hunger Games for sure, because that is when most of the non-union talent are like really trying to get seen. However, non-union talent can also go to EPAs and ECCs. It is just not guaranteed that they will be seen. They can sign up on a list for a chance, but it is not a guarantee. And it is also not a guarantee for equity members, too. If there are slots that are full, equity members will also have to sign up on a list, and those can also get pretty lengthy and prohibit them from getting seen. So those are your three main kind of auditions. We also have a really great resource called The Hustle. It is The Hustle NYC. It is a website that you pay, I believe it is $2 a month now. And you get access to it's an audition calendar, and you go day by day, and it lists all of the auditions that are currently happening on that day. This is mostly a resource for New York City specifically, but it is a really helpful, handy tool. If you are extremely organized of a person, you may not necessarily need it, but for a lot of us, we're all running around like chickens with our heads cut off anyways, so it is very helpful to have all of that organized in one place. So highly recommend. And then, of course, for our film and TV people, casting networks. That is a paid service just like Actors Access. And that is how a lot of film and TV are casting their co-stars, their principals, their commercials, their voiceover gigs, all that kind of stuff. You can find that there as well. And then once you've found your auditions, it's time to go actually do it. So you're showing up to those things that you found. What are you bringing? You are bringing your book for musicals. You are bringing your monologues for plays. You are bringing your headshots, your resumes, and some water. Stay hydrated. And you are bringing a good attitude and a calm mind, because it can be a lot. It can be a huge to do, and it is best that you put yourself in the best space to give the best performance that you can if you are going to be seen. So make sure that you are there for yourself. You are not there to waste your own time or anybody else's, because you are enough. So go in there, show them who you are as authentically as you possibly can, and then get those callbacks. And then, of course, once you get those callbacks, you will probably be provided with materials. They will give you sides for scenes. They will give you music cuts for songs. They might even give you a full song. And if that is given to you an ample amount of time ahead, if you got at least 2 days before you got to do it, maybe start to memorize it. Maybe really get it in your body. But a lot of times the turnarounds can be really tight. So if you're given 12 hours with these materials, do your best to familiarize yourself with it, but don't be afraid to hold that paper in the room, okay? Hold the paper, be familiar, look up and engage, not directly with eye contact. No direct eye contact ever in that room, unless it is asked for by very specific weirdos. But yes, be present, do your best, be ready to take some notes and change it up a little bit. Don't marry yourself to the material in any specific way. Because they want to see what you can do. They might give you some direction and see how you take notes. and you want to give them the best performance that you can. So go in, get those callbacks, and do it. We, of course, also have dance calls. So one of the ECCs you can attend is an equity course call for dancers specifically, where you will go in and learn a combo and then do it in a room with a bunch of other people. Dance calls, they can be very hard. For a lot of shows, they are looking for dancers with a capital D, and that might not be you. However, if you are invited to go to a dance call, if you audition and then they say, hey, we want to see you at the dance call, do it. You should go. You should learn what it's like, how you fit in that room, because at the end of the day, showing up matters. You might make a fool out of yourself and you might never go back to another one, and that's okay. But you got to know yourself what happens in those rooms. So go give it a shot, and just give them your best, because that is all they are asking for, is your best. So do it. You know what we're also bringing to those callbacks? Our headshot and resumes, because once again, they want to continue to know who you are. So we got to make sure that resume is easy to read. We want it to be simple. We want it to be a list of our greatest hits. We want it to be easily digestible in the very short amount of time that you are in that room. And just remember, if they are looking at your resume and not at you while you are performing, that is okay. They are just doing their best to get to know you in the amount of time that they have you, which is often very short. It is often less than 2 minutes. So they want to get to know you as best as possible. So we are putting our greatest hits on there. We don't need to put our high school productions unless those are our only credits, in which case we're going to be proud. We're going to put them on there. We're going to say, hey, this is all we've done so far, but we're ready to do more. But we don't need a list of 30 different shows that you've done at your community center, your community theater, at an open mic night at some bar in your hometown. We don't need all of that. We can make a nice, concise list to say, hey, this is who we are. These are the things that we do best, and this is what we are offering you. So go make sure you listen back to that episode, because there is a lot of good wisdom. And also we do talk about the specific formatting of your resume to make it easier for when you have to cut it out and staple it to the back of your headshot. Once again, we are stapling it to the back of our headshot. So the butts are facing each other, and we're just going to do 2 staples in the top corner. That is it. That is all they need. We don't need to do every single corner. We don't need to print back and front, because oftentimes they would like to rip them apart and take notes or pass them around in different respects. So there you go for that. Folks, after that, we talked about headshots, of course, because we want to be looking great and showing ourselves off in the best way as possible when we hand them that piece of paper. But most importantly, you should like your headshot. Headshots can be a very stressful thing. A lot of people get very uncomfortable taking pictures and being in studios in that kind of environment. But the headshot photographer is there to bring out the best in you. So they want you to feel comfortable. They will do their best to make you feel comfortable. So if you need to ask for things to make yourself more comfortable, do it, because you should love your headshots. This is going to be what you look at yourself and say, hey, no, this is me. This is who I am. This is how I feel. And this is what I want to hand them. So do your research, vet out headshot photographers, and find the person that you think is going to be the best fit for you, because it is a two-way relationship in this regard. So do your due diligence and make sure you get those nice, pretty headshots. Of course, after that, we went on and we talked about typecasting. Typecasting is a scary word that is used a lot in this industry, and it is not one that is loved by anyone. However, it is a tool that you can weaponize. Your type is something that people would often cast you as. For example, I am a comedy character actor, okay? So I do a lot of silly things, like, I'm like your Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, or I'm your Pinocchio in Shrek the Musical. Big, crazy character voices, all that kind of stuff. Awesome. Can I do other things? Yes, for sure. However, when I am trying to get my foot in the door, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, this is what I do better than anyone else. It may not even be what I do best, but it is something that I do to a caliber that is better than others. And that is how people are going to perceive me and my type. And that is how I am going to get work. So, Do I want to do other things eventually? Yes, of course. But first, I'm going to get my foot in that door. I'm going to say, this is what I'm awesome at. And then once I have my foot in that door and I'm in the room and people know me, I'm going to say, hey, guess what else I can do? All this other stuff. And then that is how we're going to navigate a nice, successful, full career in this life. So learn what you do best. Ask others, ask your directors, your teachers, ask what your type is. And you do have the opportunity to alter that. If what they're saying doesn't feel right, it feels icky in some way, shape, or form, figure out what you can do to kind of change that perception. What songs are you bringing into the audition room? That can often reflect your type. What monologues are we reading from? It can even be the outfits that we're wearing. We don't want to dress up for an audition. We don't want to be in a costume. However, we want to show them authentically who we are. So if that is something that you can express through your clothing, then awesome. Show them that, So your type is definitely within your own power, but you can use that to start to make a name for yourself and establish some familiarity. After that, we talked about actually building your book. It is going to be your life force. You are going to feel so attached to it. So it is important that you know it like the back of your hand and you like it. Folks, we are not looking to carry around a 9 billion page tome. No, we are looking for 10 to 12 songs that best show off what we can do in the various genres that we need. And that can look different for everyone, but the absolute musts are going to be, you are going to need this is so many different terms, but it may fall under classical, legit, or golden age are frequently the terms, but you're going to need a up-tempo and a ballad from each. You are going to need a contemporary up-tempo and ballad section. You are going to need a Sondheim section for sure. Absolute must. You are 1,000%, listen to me when I say this, you are going to need a pop rock section. What does that mean? This is such a standard in the industry now. It just means a song, probably from the radio. And that can look like a whole bunch of things depending on what you do best. It could be Cole Porter. It could be AC/DC. It could be Miley Cyrus. You are going to need at least probably 2 different songs in 2 different kind of genres within that. And you can have subgenres within that. If you sing 60s like no other, cool. Put that in your book, Some other specialized categories are comedy or character, if that's something that you do really well. Disney, that is something that I have in my book because there are many a Disney show that I would be great in that I would like to do. So I have a section in my book for that, and there's 2 songs in it, and I can whip it out when I need to. You can have country, you can have folk, you can have so many different things, but it is important that you are not carrying around an actual Bible of weight worth of sheet music. You need 10 to 12 songs. Each of those you are going to make cuts of, so it is a 16 and a 32 bar cut. Just a reminder, it doesn't have to be that exact amount of bars. 16 bar typically means about 30 to 45 seconds worth of song. And then 32 bar cut typically means between a minute and a half. That is the kind of industry standard that we face right now. So don't let the actual count of measures be daunting. It is just a standard of time that we are looking for here. So make sure you have cuts of that for all your songs. And oh my God, I cannot emphasize enough, change the key. Folks, if there are certain songs that just don't fit in your voice, that is okay. Contemporary musical theater is an absolute beast of vocal ranges right now. So if you need to change a key to fit your voice type better, do it. They want to hear you perform the best that you can. And that is not going to be the way everything is typically written, and that's okay. So change the key as you need. A great resource for that is musicnotes.com. And when you purchase your sheet music there, a lot of songs will offer transposition to different keys. It'll say so before you complete the purchase because there are songs on there that do not have transpositions available, in which case we can call up our favorite musically inclined friends and toss them a couple dollars to see if they can transpose some sheet music for you. But please do not be afraid to change the key. This is a tenor's world and we're all living in it, so we're going to make it a baritone's world as we can. That might have been me deflecting there, but you know what? Who's to say? The jury's out. um, After that, we went on to talk about marketing and branding, which is a strange term to think of when you are thinking about acting, but show business is a business and you are a product and you are also the salesperson of that product. You have to show them why they want to buy your product, which is you. Really great tools for that and kind of like branding yourself right now are social media and websites. Folks, Instagram is casting's biggest friend these days. So it is important to kind of develop a social media presence. We're not asking for anything crazy, but they do want to see who you are. So try and show yourself off as best you can within your comfort zone on social media, primarily Instagram, honestly. I'm not going to say you don't need Facebook, you don't need Twitter, you don't need all that stuff. Instagram is kind of the main one. And then your website is such a great opportunity to show who you are. I always recommend you make it yourself if you can, if you have the patience and the technological finesse to do that. Some really great resources are Wix and Squarespace. They are very user-friendly, especially for beginners. But making a website was really fun. It was a way for me to kind of show off myself in a way that you don't normally get to do. You know, it is a website devoted entirely to you. On there, we're probably looking for a brief bio about who you are. We're looking for some performance clips. We would like a downloadable headshot and resume on there for sure. But use that as a resource. You can do it for free, or you can pay yearly to have your own domain, which is also really cool. You know, BrennanStefanik.com. I own that. Go check it out. But in terms of branding, I think that can kind of go a little bit hand in hand with type, but your type is often who you are playing. Your brand is more who you are, you know? I am a silly, goofy guy. You know, when I am trying to think of what I bring to a work environment, a rehearsal space, an audition room, you know, it's lighthearted, it is fun, it is comforting, it is positive. So I try and reflect that as best I can on my social media, on my website. And I think if you were to ask others like who I am as a person, that is my brand. You know, that is what people know me as. That is what I want people to know me as, I hope, for the most part. But yeah, it is kind of important to have that as once again, it is a tool in your tool belt. You know, it is something that you can use to craft a career and a life in this business for yourself. So take advantage of that and use it. We have also talked a lot about music directors and accompanists. Those are people that will frequently be in the audition room for musicals. And it can be very daunting, you know? There's a lot of talk about opinions of accompanists and stuff in terms of like how to give tempo and all this stuff and how to cut your music. But basically, the goal is to create as easy of a time for you and them. You know, they are there for you. They are there to help you get these jobs. So set them up for success as best as you can, and they will do their best to set you up for success. You know, give them a tempo in a like low key, not very in your face kind of way. You know, you can tap on your chest. You can snap in a non-derogatorily way. You could tap your foot, give them the tempo, make sure if you're taking a cut of a song, make sure your sheet music is legible. If there's some form of jump from point A to point B, make sure it is labeled so clearly, or make sure you, excuse me. Once again, this is a pro burp podcast. If there's one lesson you've learned this past year is that it is a pro burp podcast. Everyone does it. You don't need to apologize. Oh, God, what was I saying? Oh, sheet music, yes. So make sure it is labeled clearly, or you can Frankenstein it, as we call, literally cut it up, tape it all together, put it on a photocopier and make just a clean sheet of it, and hand that to them so it is just easier to digest. Just make sure you're being aware of key signatures and time signatures when doing that. And also when relaying all that info to the accompanist. They are there for you, so be a team. Be a team. After that, we had a chat about different kinds of contracts. You have regional theater, which is shows that are being put on across the country that are offering employment to equity members with equity contracts. You know, There's a lot of theaters that will claim to be regional that do not have equity contracts. They are not officially considered a regional theater in the eyes of the industry in terms of what you are putting on your resume and the credits that you have. There is an online resource that has a list of regional theaters. All you have to do is Google regional theaters in the US, and it will give you the complete list of what is actually considered a regional theater. You, of course, have your off-Broadway theaters. I don't remember off the top of my head the numbers. I should have looked it up ahead of time. But off-Broadway just means that it is in New York City, and it contains a specific number of seats. That is also what constitutes a Broadway theater. Broadway theater is a theater containing X or more seats that is within a certain block radius in New York City. So off-Broadway can have non-union shows. There don't have to be any equity contracts, and they are still considered off-Broadway. There are tons that are. I would say a lot, if not most of them, do have equity contracts. Broadway, however, you will see primarily entirely equity contracts unless someone is there in some strange guest sort of way. You will see companies of union contracts. And why, do you ask? Well, let's talk about unions. For the stage, the main union is the Actors Equity Association, often referred to as AEA on paper, you may see. That is a way where once you have established yourself in your career, or if you're trying to, you can get union protections from that. You get sick pay, you get hazard pay, all sorts of specific things that if you are, say, working at a regional theater, if you are non-union, you may not get, but the equity members that are in that show will get. So there is an equity deputy on every regional show that is appointed to make sure everything is within union regulations. And that is just to make sure that shows are being run in a way that are safe and adhere to the rules that the Actors Equity Association have deemed necessary in order to provide their actors safety and security in their jobs. And once you work X amount of hours a year, that is how you are eligible to get your health insurance as an actor, is through the union as well. Let me tell you, health insurance, if you're out there and you're still on your parents' health insurance, it can be a big to-do. I didn't even know what health insurance really was. So don't sweat it. Another great resource, if you are not in the union, or you are not working enough weeks within the union, is the Entertainment Community Fund. They are an awesome organization that you can literally call up at any time and say, "Hi, I'm an artist. I need health insurance. I don't know what that is. Will you help me?" And then they will just ask you for your information and your income status and all that stuff. And they will tell you what plans are available to you, and they will literally sign you up so you don't have to. Really awesome. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Go check them out if you need to. Anywho, unions. Yeah, so you have your Actors Equity Association. The way that you join that is now different. It used to be kind of like a point system where if you were a non-union actor working in an equity theater, you would get a point for every week you worked there. And then once you gained 25 points, that is 25 weeks of working an equity theater, you would accrue these points and you would be eligible to join the union. Nowadays, the EMC program no longer exists. There are still EMC members until this May upcoming. But now, as long as you have worked a professional job in some way, shape, or form, you are eligible to join the union. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing is a huge source of debate. I personally see a lot of fresh new union members going into these auditions with very few credits, and they are not getting work and they are paying union dues. And in my opinion, that seems to be digging yourself into a hole a little bit. And also, it is kind of hard as a union member to get an appointment. So you kind of have to decide within yourself, your own self-awareness, your morality, all that stuff, whether or not you feel as though you should join the union and start being eligible to take slots and stuff and join that whole circus of a thing. So that is a mixed bag. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I can tell you right now, I am a member of the EMC program. I worked a regional job right before they abolished the program. So I am luckily a member of the EMC program, which means at EPAs, I can go and sign up on a list that is separate from the equity list and the non-union list. It's kind of an in-between. So if they run through all of the equity alternates, then they'll start calling from the EMC list. And then once they reach the end of that, then they will start calling from the non-union list. So it is a huge advantage that I have. However, there's a lot of people out there right now that are starting to work union jobs as non-union, and they do not get that privilege. So I say you should know in your heart when you are ready. You should feel a level of accomplishment in your ability to perform. And that doesn't come necessarily from working a ton of jobs. If you know that you have what it takes, then go for it. And then if you learn after auditioning a bunch that you don't, then maybe we reevaluate how we want to go about this. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You do you. You trust yourself, trust your gut, and go with it. That brought us to the month of June last year, good old Pride Month, where we delved into the history of theater a little bit. Theater has been around for thousands upon thousands of years, and theater is kind of gay. And that's really cool. Folks, the ancient Greeks started it all, and those people were wild. But theater has been a huge safe space and home to the LGBT community. The theater industry is built on the backs of that community. And so it is so important to acknowledge that in these spaces that we are working in. Diversity and inclusion walks hand in hand with theater. We are all here to tell stories of so many different kind of people. And in order to do that, you must be able to empathize with them. And I think there's a specific way of doing that morally, but that is neither here nor there. So yeah, in summary, theater's pretty gay, and that's cool. However, everyone is welcome. Let's just respect the community and love them and make sure we are supporting them in any way that we can. And just because it's topical, I will say that also means voting. Who you vote for has an effect on this community and theater and art in general for our lives. So I will leave that there before I open a can of worms. But that is the opinion of me. That is the opinion of this podcast. And I think it is pretty central to the industry of theater. After that, we talked about mental health, because being an actor can be so hard. It is facing a lot of rejection really constantly, and that a sheer amount can be a huge adjustment to get used to in life. You don't come from that sheer amount of rejection before you are in this industry. And so it can be a huge wake-up call. It can be really tough. Some people aren't cut out for it, and that's okay. But it is a part of what we do. It is what we are signing up for when we decide to be an actor. So it is so important that we take care of ourselves in whatever way we possibly can. Does that mean going to get yourself a treat after an audition? Sure. Does that mean going to therapy? Hell yes, it does. Does it mean getting some antidepressants if you need it? 100%. Could not recommend it more. I'm thriving because of that. But at the end of the day, this is such a good community to lean on. So please find your community within the theater industry. Find those people that you can go to. And if you need people outside of the industry to lean on, express that to them and craft your life around that as well. Because sometimes you just need to escape. And sometimes it's people that just don't understand, but can pat you on the shoulder and buy you a drink, So just surround yourself with the best people you can, put yourselves in the best spaces that you can, and ask for help. Always ask for help if you need help. You are not in this alone. There are so many people out there struggling in this industry. Reach out, ask for help. We are all here to hold hands and boost each other up. After that, we did an awesome episode about how to move to New York. Let me say, moving to New York is not a necessity. It is not a necessity to being a professional actor. Being a professional actor just means you are getting paid to act, and you can do that anywhere. However, this is obviously a huge source of work. This is where Broadway is. This is where a lot of those EPAs are happening. New York is a really great place to be as an artist and as an actor specifically. So There is so much that goes into that, so I will just say the brief thing is it is expensive, and Street Easy is an awesome option, but I highly recommend you go listen to that episode if that is something you are considering, because that was just a wealth of resources to put out there into the world, so go check it out. We also talked about creating your own work, because sometimes you are not getting work and you want to perform, you want to be seen. And if nobody's given you those opportunities, give yourself those opportunities. You know, there's a lot to consider, and it is a lot of work to produce your own plays, shows, cabarets, all that jazz. But it can be so fun and rewarding. Oh, podcasts, obviously podcasts. You know, it can be a whole ton of work, but it is so rewarding. And it is also just a great way to start to get your name out there, you know? Host a show somewhere, rent a space, invite your friends, get people to come and pay the venue money so that they invite you back more often. You know, craft your relationships in that way. It is a huge, useful tool. Also, obviously, be careful, because this is going to be a reflection of you if you are the one creating this work and inviting all these people to it. So be smart about the work that you are creating and how you are showcasing whatever you want to showcase. But at the end of the day, make it happen. Do it. We also talked about what producers do in terms of theater. They are kind of the ringmasters of it all. They have so many responsibilities, and there's so many of them. There's so many levels to it. But in general, they're important, and there's a lot that they do. So go check out that episode for a real in-depth explanation of that. After that, we had the pleasure of talking about swings, understudies, standbys, 3 words that we hear a lot of in this day and age, especially in a post-COVID theater world. As we now know, an understudy is an actor who also covers one of the principal roles. They may also be a supporting role, they may be in the ensemble, they may be off stage, but they cover a principal role in some way, shape, or form. So they are considered an understudy. A standby is someone that is not in the show, but is there to stand by and quote unquote understudy a specific role in the show, or maybe 2 or 3 specific roles, but they are not on stage. They are there in case of emergency, or if they are contracted to be there. Like if there's a big megastar that says, hey, I don't want to perform Wednesday matinees, the standby will be contracted to go on for that. But they are that kind of next go-to in the pecking order of that. Swings are actors that cover both principal and ensemble roles. So they are frequent, there are offstage and onstage swings, but they have several tracks in the show that they are ready to cover at a moment's notice. They may be doing more than one of those tracks at once, and they may be doing the work of 3 actors all by themselves, and they can also be understudies. Swings can also understudy the principal roles as well. So all swings can be understudies, but understudies in general are not always swings, just to kind of put that Venn diagram in there. But this industry could literally not have survived the past 4 years without the swings, understudies, and standbys. I cannot toot their horns enough. They are so important and vital to modern theater, and those are some of the most electrifying performances you can see. So if you're going to see a show and you have a little insert of paper in your playbill that says your favorite person is not going to be on, and instead this person is going on, don't get disheartened about it. It may be one of the best performances you're about to see, because they are coming in fresh. They don't have to do this 8 times a week, so they can kind of come in. It's going to be a different perspective on the role, and it can sometimes be history. It can sometimes be history in the making. So it is an honor to be in that room, and always remember that. And after that, I had the pleasure of doing a very special episode for parents of aspiring actors with my very own mother. It was wicked special. We kind of just talk about how daunting it can be for a child or any person really to go into the theater industry as an actor. And it can be very tricky in terms of navigating, are we paying for education and all of that stuff? But having support in your family can just be so helpful to all of the uncertainty of it all. Just knowing that the people that have been there for you since the get-go of your life are still rooting for you in this very uncertain journey that you're about to take. So that was so special. If you're a high school student that really wants to go to school for theater, show that episode to your parents. If you're someone that wants to transfer majors, show that episode to your parents. You know, it was really special. And I kind of got to hear all of my mom's thought processes along my journey, and just finally reaching that point of knowing that I can do it and that I am doing it, and just the pride within that. So I'm so grateful to both of my parents for supporting me in that journey. So go check that out for sure. After that, we kind of delved back into the world of social media a little bit more, into the new kind of world of influencers, the new kind of career of influencers in this modern day and age, because outlets like TikTok and Instagram, if you are posting videos on there, that is an opportunity for performance. You can be an actor on these apps and make money from doing it. Now, you got to keep in mind that this is also still playing into your brand and your reputation of all of that. So be smart about what you post. You never know what's going to blow up these days. Truly, anything could blow up these days. You could get a following overnight from something that you didn't even think twice about, just some stupid little thing that you wanted to throw on there just to be silly. So I'm not saying that every actor needs to go out there and try and be an influencer. Honestly, that might get a little too cringy. But if it happens to you and you are creating these environments for it to kind of happen to you, that is awesome. Use it to your advantage. There are people that were theater influencers that are getting cast on Broadway based on their TikTok videos. There are people being sought out from their TikTok videos. There's people being sought out from their Instagram reels that were probably TikTok videos 4 months before, but that's neither here nor there. But that can once again be a huge tool in your tool belt for this career as an actor. So if you got it, use it. After that, we talked about making a plan. Planning can be very tricky in this industry because there is so much uncertainty, but setting goals for yourself is awesome. If there's a certain person you want to work with, boom, that's your goal. Fill in the middle. How are we going to get there? Even if it's do a show with this person, get in touch with this person, yada, yada, yada. How are we going to navigate that? That can be a really good way to help yourself move in directions that you would like to be moving in. It is a good motivator. It is a good resource. Once again, you got to have social tact. You got to be smart about how you're doing it. And it may just be a dream at the end of the day, but put it on paper, make a plan, and try and make it happen. What do you got to lose? Let me tell you, nothing. You owe it to yourself to give yourself all of the tools and resources to make those dreams become realities. So get out there and do it. Now, it may take time. It might be longer than your 3-year plan. It might be longer than your 5-year plan. It's probably going to be longer than your 1-year plan. Let's just say that. But you just got to stick with it because you never know what is around the corner. Success in this industry comes in so many different ways, some of which you don't know exist for yourself yet. So you just kind of got to be open. I always say this on here, what is made for you will not pass you by. That is something that you have to believe in so wholeheartedly as an actor, because casting and, all of that kind of aspects of this industry are so subjective. It can be based on a person's height. It can be based on what a casting director ate for breakfast this morning, if they're in the room or not, yada, yada, yada. There are just so many factors to take into account with these things, and the only actions that you can control are your own. So just do that. Focus on yourself, and your time will come when the time is right. After that, we had our very first appearance at BroadwayCon, which was absolutely awesome. Once again, thank you to everyone who came out and saw us there. And for those of you who didn't, don't worry, that was not your only shot. Folks, we are, of course, going to be at this year's BroadwayCon, which is almost a month away. We will be at BroadwayCon on Sunday, February 9th. We are going to be doing a live podcast recording at 10:45 a.m. at BroadwayCon with a soon-to-be-announced special guest. So come through, come see what it's like behind the scenes. I would love to meet y'all. So if you're going to be there, please, please, please come find us. But anywho, at that first con, we talked about kind of navigating life on an actor's schedule, because when you are doing 8 shows a week, you are working 6 days a week. Oftentimes you are at the theater all day, you have rehearsals before. How do you have time to do that? And I think, once again, the most important aspect is community. It is surrounding yourself with people in the industry or out of the industry that are cognizant of your time restraints and make time to spend with you whenever you can, and just kind of surround yourself with the right people and right environments. It is completely doable. There are so many actors with full family lives out there on Broadway right now and working around the country and traveling for all that kind of stuff. So it is very doable, but you just got to kind of make it happen for yourself. And the certain kinds of people within it are absolutely essential. After that, we got into some more harsh realities of being an actor, which is the survival job. You are going to have them. They are going to be many, and you are probably not going to care about them because you're going to be thinking the whole time, gosh, I just want to get paid to sing and dance. But you know what? It is all a part of the process. You got to pay your bills somehow. So I always recommend part-time. I recommend several part-time jobs. It is going to give you the flexibility that you need. I recommend jobs that are frequently inhabited by actors. So like restaurant jobs, bartending jobs are a great way to make money. Working in theaters as a bartender or an usher or merchandise is also a really great option because you are then operating on the Broadway schedule. You will have time in your day for auditions because that is the way that is created. It is often part-time. It is also inhabited by actors. So just make sure you give yourself the flexibility to make sure you are able to go to audition for whatever you need to, because that is number one. That is part of your career. As a working actor, that doesn't mean you are going to be working in theater 100% of the time. Going to work is showing up to an audition. If you showed up to an audition, you went to work that day. It is sitting in a waiting room for 3 hours not to be seen. You went to work that day. You did your job. Showing up is important. Showing up is your job. So for all the other little jobs that you need along the way, make sure they can accommodate that. There are just so many people in the world. There are so many jobs, and you are easily replaceable, and that is not a bad thing. And then after that, we talked about a specific kind of contract, which was the cruise contract. Folks, that is an awesome option, especially for young performers that are really eager to flex that performance muscle and go and make some money. That is a great option. Cruise life isn't for everyone. There's a lot to take in consideration in terms of, once again, timing and having a life outside of that and connecting and communicating with those who you left behind on the mainland. But in the end, it can be wicked worth it. Another little globe-trotting option that we examined after that was touring. We talked about the different kinds of tours. You have your union tours, which are typically Broadway shows that are sending shows out on tour. They are flying you places. They're putting you up in hotels. There are bus and truck tours, which are non-union tours. All your sets are on a truck going across the country. You're on buses. You're going from city to city. You're sleeping. You're waking up. You're doing another show, all that kind of stuff. There's international tours where you're going all around the globe to different places and doing your weird American show for them, which they love so much for some reason, It can be a really cool way to see the world and get paid to do what you love all in one go, So it's definitely something to take into consideration if you have the space in your life to do that. We then got to talk about some other aspects of theater, like playwriting and composing, and kind of how people fell into that kind of career and how it can walk hand in hand with the life of an actor. You can do both, If you are passionate about multiple things, it is okay to do both. Devote your time to whatever you can, and it's also a really great way to meet new people in the industry, So once again, if you're creating your own work in whatever way, shape, or form, put it out there. And then after that, we got to take a more in-depth look at regional theater, because if you are doing these shows all around the country, you can find yourself in all sorts of places and situations, So oftentimes you will be housed in certain places in certain ways with or without a roommate. There are certain contract kind of negotiations that you can make, transportation. How are you getting everywhere? Are you getting yourself there? Are they paying for you to get there? What is the regional theater kind of schedule like? What is it like to be in these random places? All that kind of stuff. There is a lot to take into consideration when you are working regionally and choosing where you want to go, what you want to audition for, and all that regard. So give it a listen and see if that kind of work can fit into the way that you want to live your life, because it can be such a rewarding way to do what you love. And once again, I guess see the rest of the country, good way to see new places, experience new cultures, all that kind of stuff. Actually, on my very first regional job, I got to go to Yosemite, which I never had really considered doing, and I don't know if I would have gotten to do that in any other way in my life if I hadn't done that. So that was a really cool thing, You never know where you're going to end up. So do your research, do all that kind of stuff, and take all of it into consideration when you're looking for work and doing the thing. After that, we took a deeper look into the Broadway contract and the kinds of protections and specificities and requirements that are listed in there. It can be a very finicky thing, but once again, that is the top of the top in terms of theater contracts and stuff. So there is a lot to look over. There is a lot to fight for and negotiate, because at the end of the day, this is still a job. And if you are working 40 hours a week doing this, you still need sick pay because you're going to get sick. You're going to need vacation pay because you will need a break, Because at the end of the day, like we said, show business is a business. And just like any other job, there's a lot to take into consideration. And then after that, we delved into the world of voiceover, which is another outlet that became really popular during the pandemic. People were trying to figure out how they can still perform and get paid to perform from the comfort of their homes. And voiceover was a huge way. There are so many different mediums that you can do it with, whether that be cartoons, video games, audiobooks, informational programming, those little videos that you have to watch when you start a new job, all of those training things, all sorts of stuff. So that was a really interesting other facet of performing. And how cool. But then after that, we kicked off a wicked awesome partnership collaboration with the 20-Sided Tavern. We had an awesome week of just the nerdiest theater discussions there were in the world. And within that, we also talked about immersive theater as a performance option. We talked about improv as a career path. There are so many different ways to make money acting and getting that satisfaction other than just being on a Broadway stage. So look in other places too, the options are endless. And also go see the 20-Sided Tavern off Broadway. Now, after that, we fell into a very interesting time of this previous year, which was election time. The following episode after that was immediately after Election Day, which was a very dark one for the theater community. It is very scary and uncertain, but as we did 8 years ago, we can once again use theater as a way to move forward. We can get our stories told. We can change people's minds and opinions and outlooks on this world and promote love and positivity and just kind of create a dialogue for everyone. And that means everyone, it's difficult to have these conversations for sure. But in this industry where we are talking about empathy and compassion, we need to give it as much as we preach about it. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of really good, new, interesting political theater in the next couple of years. But even on the ground level, whatever you can do to be an activist in your community through performance, it can be such a useful tool. And I think it's going to be very important in these next 4 years that we're about to encounter. Once again, we are all in this together in the theater community. If you are struggling, if you need to reach out to people, find some friends. This is such a safe space and a welcoming space and a great outlet too if you need to escape for a little bit. So please, please, please lean on everyone, all your thespian siblings and pals. It is just so important. And then after that, we talked about something that is frequently referred to as, quote, the Broadway body, which is kind of the standard person shape that you see on a Broadway stage. And that is dumb. That is dumb. That is unnecessary. This world exists with people of all shapes and sizes who can tell stories just as good as those with abs all across their body. So as we said, fuck the Broadway body. If you're on Broadway and you have a body, that is the Broadway body. There is no such thing as the, quote, Broadway body. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, you can have a career in this field. So don't ever let that be a deterrent to not chase your dreams. Don't ever let it be something that makes you look at yourself and not love yourself or root for yourself in any way, shape, or form, because you are perfect just the way you are. And this is a world that can incorporate that. After that, we had a little chat about making connections, because in this industry, they often say it's about who you know. And honestly, it is. A lot of ways you are going to get jobs is through people you know. A lot of ways you are going to get auditions is through people you know. Word of mouth is so important, and that is why it is so imperative that you put yourself in as many spaces as you can to meet people in the industry, meet casting directors, meet agents, all that jazz, Put yourself in good spaces to do that. Ask your friends to connect you to certain people, make a podcast. I don't know. Because connections really are everything, and it can be such a critical tool to your success. And it can also work against you, honestly. So that's why it is important to put your best self out there for everyone to see and love and enjoy. And then after that, we did a little chat about theater etiquette, because let me tell you, I cannot tell you the last time I have been in a theater without seeing at least 5 cell phones and at least one of them actually going off mid-performance. I'd go listen to the episode. Just go listen to the episode. I could talk about this for hours because boy, does it grind my gears. And then, of course, we talked about college auditions. That is a circus that I was not a part of. I didn't audition for schools. The only one that I applied to with an audition, I got too intimidated and I didn't go. And let me tell you, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it is so doable. And there are ways that you can prepare yourself to really set yourself up for success. I think a lot of it goes kind of hand in hand with a lot of the audition stuff that we talked about and the authenticity of it all. So if this is something that you would like to seriously consider, go listen to that episode. Set yourself up for success with all of your music, all of your performance, all of your applications, literally everything. There is so much that you can do to put yourself a step above the rest. And then, of course, we concluded the year with a lovely discussion about the Wicked movie that just came out. It has truly enraptured culture and people so far removed from the theater space that it is starting to kind of introduce more people to theater and the beautiful world of opportunity and art within it. So that has been such a nice way to kind of end 2024, is seeing that boom and appreciation for, I guess, also this piece that we just love so much and inspired so many of us to go out there and try to do what we're doing. So yeah, that was just a really nice way to kind of end the year. I would, of course, be remiss to not acknowledge all of our mini-series of In the Spotlight episodes that we did. We learned about so many shows since we introduced that mini-series, and we have only scratched the surface. And knowing theater, knowing shows is an important part of being an actor. You need to know what made the world that you are currently in. You need to know what you are auditioning for and all of that jazz. So if you haven't already, start to give those a listen for sure. It's a lot of fun. We try and keep them short, but half the time they're full-length episodes anyways. And yeah, folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for tuning in this whole year and coming along on this journey with me. I would, of course, like to thank all of my following guests in order that I am obviously reading off a list, because there are just so many, and I am so grateful for all of that. Chris Rice Thompson, Brandon Walters, Liz Byrne, Megan Elise Fulmer, Taryn Smithson, Katie Garrity, Gabriel Kearns, DJ Plunkett, Matt Whitman, Connor DeVoe, Luke Clopton, Jason Wetzel, Mike Safalo, Michael Yvonne Carrier, Zach Reynolds, Kalea Leverett, Pauline Parkers, Fernell Hogan, Kaylee McKnight, Caitlin McNeilage, Victor Carrillo Tracy, my mom, Ms. Karen Stefanik, Kara Rose DePietro, Holly Gould, Claire Rachel Howell, Greg Losella, Maria Norris, Brad Weinstock, Sarah Hogwood, Ryan Scott Oliver, Justin Allbinder, Daniel J. Maldonado, Will Champion, Cassidy Sledge, Jasmine Malave, Diego F. Salinas, Madeline Murphy, L. Morgan Lee, Tyler Dima, Julie Galarenzo, and of course, huge special thank you and shout out to our co-host of our miniseries, Mr. Daniel J. Solly. Couldn't do it without you, and I couldn't do it without all the rest of you folks. You have made this year so freaking special, and I think next year is also going to be really special, folks. We have some awesome guests lined up for this upcoming year. It's time to get wicked excited. I'm really pumped. I'm not going to lie. We're in a really good place right now, and I just can't wait to share everyone's stories with you It's going to be a blast. Anywho, everyone get out there, start booking, keep booking, book for your life, and do what you love. I am rooting for you. I am your biggest supporter, and you can be our biggest supporter by finding us on Patreon. Folks, that is patreon.com/BA2Broadway. Just a reminder, we're not gatekeeping any vital information on there. That is just for fun, silly bonus content, wacky industry stories, little glimpses into the lives of me and our guests, and a little behind the scenes look at the podcast. And we have a lot of fun bonus content planned for the new year as well. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA2Broadway. Hey, Brennan, where can folks find you if you want to be found? Hey, thanks. Y'all can find me over on Instagram and TikTok at Brennan Stefanik. You can find me on my website, brennanstefanik.com, and you can find me speaking into your ears every week on From BA to Broadway. And until next time, folks, bye. From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.